Dating Haley was like dating like 20 different girls.
And I remember that you even like wanted to kiss me.
I never kissed a girl before.
And you wanted me to be your first. Eran was like the only person who ever told me after we broke up. He said, I would rather have you in my life as a friend than not have you in my life at all.
I was just like, how could God give me the most perfect girl in my life finally, only for me to not be with her because I live here and she lives there? And she's like, Eran, we're getting married in a month. There is no mine or yours. This is our money. So I'm giving you this money.
Are you getting emotional?
And give you this money.
Emotional. What the heck?
All right, good.
We're good to go?
Yeah, fifth attempt.
Hey babes, what's up? It's Haley.
And Eran.
And welcome to the first episode of the Hey Babes podcast.
Yeah, it's very highly requested after our last Q&A video.
Definitely. On my original YouTube channel, Haley's Corner, we just did like a typical little Q&A in this format. And the overwhelming response, you guys commenting, make a podcast was insane. So we're like, you know what? Let's start a channel on the spot and let's just do it. We can officially make this a consistent thing. We're going to have weekly episodes on here and we would love your feedback for the whole time. Like, this is going to be very different than what you guys saw on the original channel. Yeah. It's not going to be edited. This is totally raw. We're for sure going to be cutting each other off. We're for sure going to be making some mistakes. For sure, Eran is going to be stuttering. You know to expect that.
So I'll definitely correct myself and try my best to enunciate. Literally beforehand, Haley was just like, Eran, enunciate.
Yes.
But I can't help it. So if I do make a mistake, we learn, we'll get better over time.
Exactly. The way that I look at it, I'm someone who loves listening to podcasts, and so does Eran.
Me too.
But I feel like in the podcast space, there were so many podcasts that were about like how to make money, how to build your business, how to make the most of your life, which all of those are so great and really good topics for, you know, people who need that kind of motivation. But sometimes I just really want to kick it back, relax, listen to a podcast like as if I'm talking to a best friend, you know?
Yeah.
So the reason we're called Hey Babes is because just imagine we're in a social setting. I come to my girls or my guys, because Eran is a babe too. And I'm just pretty much going to be like, hey babes, what's up? What are we talking about today? So I think for the first episode, we asked you guys for a lot of feedback on Instagram on like what you think our topic should be. We got a lot of relationship questions. I feel like that was a big niche that a lot of people were interested in. And while we're going to probably do podcasts which are a mix and mash of everything, we thought that for the first episode it would be really good to kind of dwell into our past, a little bit about our history, and kind of make this an all-around podcast about how to find your person. How do you know that this person is the right person for you? Kind of a bit of background with their dating experience. And this will be kind of like a nice introductory episode to get to know us a little bit as individuals and a little bit as a couple as well.
Yeah.
Let's start the conversation going. And I think a really good thing for us to kind of start with is how we met, but we're going to keep it brief because we have spoken about our story quite a bit. So Eran is originally from Florida and I'm from Toronto, Canada. And when we were in 12th grade, well, I was in 12th grade. In grade 12, my best friend and I wanted to do like a little vacation trip for a graduation trip. And she's family with Eran's family. So her mom reached out to his mom and she's like, hey, I have my daughter and her friend. They're looking for a place to vacation for a week. You guys live very close to Miami Beach. Would you mind hosting them? So didn't really think much of it.
Sorry to cut you out. Their original was to go to Cuba with other guy friends, but then they decided to make it like an all guys trip. So last minute,
and they left us in the dust.
Yeah, so last minute they ended up coming to Miami. So everything ended up working for the best.
So basically, first impressions, I get to Miami. I mean, I knew that there was like younger people living in the house because all of him and his siblings are around our age, but I didn't really think much of it. I just remember coming in through the door with Nicole, and all I see is this guy with like huge ass headphones on his ears.
It wasn't that big.
You were wearing big headphones.
Actually, at that time, I would wear like
he had a stringer on.
$10 Amazon headphones.
He had a stringer on, and he was making himself a protein shake, all sweaty because he was after a workout at the gym. And I was like, damn, who's that? I was like, am I staying in a house with this person for a week?
This was all strategically planned, by the way.
No, it was not.
I came back from the gym that night, and then there was a knock on the door. I opened the door, and I just see like my cousin that I remembered like a few years back when I went to visit Canada, but we weren't really in touch at that time. And then I saw her friend, which was Haley, and I'm like, hi. And they're like, hi, we're here for the week for spring break.
Your parents didn't even tell you that we were coming?
I think that's the thing. My parents will just bombard it. I don't know. They'll never, I'm like, Mom, you didn't bother telling me. Like, I told you to remember this, that. But like, it was very, very brief.
Oh my God.
And then I saw them and I'm like, first instinct, I'm like, oh wow, this girl's cute. And then I asked them, like, what are you guys here for? Like, they're like, the typical, oh, we came to go to the beach, maybe like have some fun. I'm like, oh, do you guys want to like party? We're like, yeah, we want to party, whatever. But it it was just
His
whatever they're
recollection of
saying.
like all of these past events, by the way, is much better than mine. I don't know if it's pregnancy brain. I don't know if it's just time, but he has a very good memory of the details of things. But going into it, we basically spent the first couple of days there. The entire time I was there for the first few days, Eran did not speak a word to me.
No,
He
I
did not
didn't.
make eye contact with me. And I'll tell you what, first impression wise, just based off of the fact that he was like a gym head and like he was wearing a stringer and he was all muscly.
A stringer, for many that don't know, it's like a muscle tank. It's like the
Yeah.
tanks, like the gym shark.
That show off your
whatever.
nipples.
No, not all. Show the nipple. It's like this, and then like the back is like slim, so you can see like the back muscles and stuff like. So it's basically like
He basically looked like he
a
was
gym
just trying
muscle
to
tank.
show off his muscles, but he wasn't. But
Basically.
I'll tell you what, my first impression was like, okay, this guy is like such a player. And
yeah.
as I mentioned in our like last video podcast situation, I never really go for players. I just like good boys, and I just never really thought of myself to be with someone who like just got a lot of girls and was like into that kind of stuff. So as
Even
much
though you
as
still were attracted. To
I
me.
was attracted to you, yes, but I didn't really like I didn't start flirting with you off the
True.
bat, especially because I don't want to like make this sound weird, but like I was used to getting guys' attention. I had a lot of guy friends, and like the fact that he didn't speak two words to me and he showed no interest whatsoever, I was just like, okay,
Again,
this
was
guy's not
strategically
interested.
planned. This is
Apparently.
all part of the
I just
plan.
think he didn't know what he was doing, but
But
whatever.
That-
We'll get
that
into
was-
that later.
That was my tactic. But another point was like I was just shy because also didn't want to get rejected. So like I'm not gonna like put myself out there only to get like rejected because like that's
Yeah.
like one of like I feel like guys' fears in general.
So bottom line, we didn't really talk for the first few days.
No.
How did everything change?
I think what happened was I went to my friend and I'm like, and the reason why I asked him is because at the time I just got a car. I never drove on the highway before. So like, hey man, listen, do you mind coming with me and like my cousin and her friend, and we'll just
take
my
them out
two
to a
friends.
restaurant.
Took them out to a restaurant like Saturday night, like after Shabbat, and we'll go out. And then he's like, why don't you just go yourself? I'm like, well, listen, it's two girls, one guy. Like maybe like just have a little bit more of, sorry, again, enunciate. We can have a little bit more of a like a friend group setting.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I haven't driven on the highway yet, so I'm kind of scared to drive
So
on
he
the
was
first time.
nervous.
So then we all went out together, and I think like that night was like the first time we actually like
got to
got
talk.
to know each other, talk, bond. And I even remember when we went to the restaurant, I'm like, oh, what are you guys gonna order? Like a salad and whatever. He's like, nah, I want a burger. And I'm like, oh wow, like a burger?
You were really
And
attracted to that,
I'm a
weren't
girl,
you?
you know, because I love to eat in that sense. So like, you know, if she would have ordered a salad, it would have been cool too. But the fact that she was just like, no, I'm gonna order a burger, like
I'm like, if you're
I
taking
wanna
me out,
enjoy.
I'm
I was
getting
like,
a
oh wow,
burger.
it's pretty bold, but like pretty cool at the same time because like you don't really see many girls do that.
So what I remember from that night, as much as we had fun, like when we were in a group setting, I remember when we got back to your house that night, me and you had the conversation. And if you guys know what I'm talking about, I mean, maybe this is not everybody, but if you're like really into somebody, you usually have, whether it be like a late night phone call or a FaceTime or like whatever it may be, a conversation that you're like, whoa, this person and I legit have a lot of chemistry. We really click. And I
That's-
feel
I
like
don't think
that
it's-
we had.
I think we had it, but I think it's more the fact of like sometimes when you're in such a good conversation, especially with somebody that like, you know, you have like an attraction towards it or whatever it is, like time will just fly by. And I remember like
Yeah.
we got home around like midnight, and then we were talking, and then like we're all like kind of yawning and stuff, like a little bit tired. And then I'm like, dang, well, I'm actually pretty tired. And I look and I'm like, oh my god, it's like 3:30 in the morning. Did we just
Yeah.
talk for like
There's
3
really like
hours?
nothing better than having a conversation that just flows and it
Yeah.
just doesn't stop. You don't realize how quickly time passed. And I feel like that was kind of the first moment that I was like, okay, this guy is like really something special. I don't remember feeling this with anybody else or like having conversations that are like this easy and this relatable with anybody else. As much as what I do remember from that first week that we were there, I think you were kind of trying like to put on this persona that you were like a party boy, that you were really cool,
Yeah,
that you
'cause
were always
listen-
invited to whatever. You know how sometimes you want to go on a first date with somebody and you may not necessarily feel confident that the person will like you for who you are, so you kind of put up this like, okay, this is what I'm going to represent, this is the image that I'm going to show this person, like, because this is what I want to portray about myself. I feel like in those first few days, Eran was trying to do that. He was trying to kind of give off this image like he was a cool guy and he was a player. And
I
like,
am still a cool guy. What do you mean?
yeah, but babe, you were not, I'm sorry, you never had a girlfriend, you know? You
I
were
didn't have
not, you
official
were not like
girlfriend,
a flirt. You were not somebody who was like hitting up a new girl every
No,
night.
I
Like,
flirted. Well, like it was just like
it
'cause
never
that was
led
the thing.
anywhere though, you know?
I was a nice Jewish boy. I didn't do
Exactly.
those things.
And I think you were kind of like in the beginning a little bit like shy to admit that that was your persona. But I remember when we had that conversation, I was like, Ellen, like, cut the bullshit. I don't think you're this kind of person. I don't think you're not a player, you know? Like, just
Even
be
though
you.
I did do certain tactics that really worked. Like I remember when we were like,
Here we go again.
babe, this was me in my prime.
Okay.
You know, But I remember we were in the car, and then like my cousin went to go get something from the house, and we were in the car, and then she was like, I'm like, so what? Like there are like no guys like in Toronto that like you potentially see yourself with. Like again, that's just my way of saying like, yo, are you single? You talking to somebody? No. And then she was like, nah, there maybe this is one person, but like they're not like this. Like it's not like how like, you know, like how we are right now. And da-da-da. I'm like, so basically you need a guy like me. And then she was just like, she like got like all blushed and everything. She like looked to the side, and I was like, yeah. You know, but
I think that was my first like admitting that I kind of liked you.
Yeah.
Because something I did realize about Eran is that like there was just nobody like him in Toronto in many different aspects. Like first of all, I met you like in your family and even religiously. Like the fact that we both kept Shabbat, we both kept kosher, we were literally at the exact same level, which was like out of all the guys who were interested in me here, they were either like super, super like religious and Orthodox at a place that I wasn't ready to be at, or vice versa, they weren't keeping anything. And because logically I knew that I was someone who wanted to like date to get married potentially, I didn't want to start a relationship with somebody that would end up like not working out because we don't have the same values. So the fact that we had the same values, that was like step one. And I think that is definitely something like going forward, if you guys are somebody who's dating someone, this is something we mentioned in our last like Q&A, it is so important that while you're dating, you figure out if your values are aligned and they're the same, because only through that can you kind of go on to like the next step of pursuing a relationship. If you're already seeing so many red flags about things in the future that can cause your relationship to like dwindle, and it's not really stuff you can compromise about, like whether you want to get married, whether you want to have kids, whether you want like a presence of God or something in your life, like these are definitely stuff that you have to talk about before. And Eran and I somehow within the first few days of knowing each other, we like already spoke about all of that.
And I think with us, like she was the first person that kind of saw through my BS and called me out on it, but not even called me out on it, but more of like made me feel like, oh wow, this girl actually likes me for me.
Yeah,
like not like the persona
yourself,
that I play
exactly.
because I have muscles or I go to this party or whatever. She just likes me for who I am, and like I like who I am. Like it's me. So because of that, I felt even more inclined to be like, I'm gonna pursue this because, you know, this is the first person that I met that like likes me for Eran.
Exactly. And I think going off of that, how did that trip end? I feel like that was like the craziest part for me. I'm not like such an invested person, especially when I just meet somebody. But what I do remember is that it was the last day of our trip in Florida. And I was like, you came to say goodbye, I remember. And I just remember the drive back to the airport. And I was bawling in the back seat, and like I was trying to do it like
Did my
very
mom
quietly.
drive to the airport?
Yeah, and
She
I was
see?
trying. No, I was hiding it from her. I was so embarrassed. She'd probably be like, "Why is she crying? Is she like depressed in Canada or something?" But
I
like,
just want to go back to the winter.
I mean, I just remember just being so emotional, and I was like bawling, and I was like trying to hold in my cries, but I was literally thinking like, "Wow, this is somebody that like I want in my life. This is somebody that I potentially see myself with, and he doesn't live in Canada, you know?" And I think both of us kind of like at that point, especially since it was like we only knew each other for a week, we weren't thinking like you'll move to Canada or I'll move to Miami. There was like no discussions of that.
But
obviously.
even though within that week, I felt like I've known her for like a long time. Like I feel like I've known her for years. And the funniest part is that I sensed that we had something going on. But again, like I don't have that much experience in that sense. Like I'm also like, I didn't have as much confidence. I was also very naive. And I remember like I asked my sister, I'm like, by the way, did she mention anything about me? And of course, my sister's like, no, they didn't really say anything about you. So like, I think it's in your head.
Oh, Ariella.
And I felt like, oh, okay, whatever. And then I remember when we were exchanging numbers, she's like, here, listen, take my number. Like, we'll be in contact when I go back to Canada. I'm like, all right, cool. And then when I'm like, oh, let me maybe message her, see how she is, like, before she flies. And then I look at my phone, like, when she's already in Toronto, and I see, hey, cutie.
Because
like,
I was the first one to send that message.
Because you gave me your number.
Exactly.
You're like, here.
So yes, Haley sent the first message.
And then when she went back to Toronto, like we kept in touch, obviously. And then I think after like 2 or 3 days of FaceTiming every day, where we just admitted to each other we had feelings for each other. And that's when it was all unraveled and all that stuff.
So with all of that, Eran and I actually started a long distance relationship, but it wasn't like it kind of was off the bat. We started talking, we started texting. It became kind of like a daily thing. And we kind of started dating long distance because I mean at that point we admitted that we liked each other. Slowly, obviously, like the more you spend time talking to somebody, the more you end up developing feelings and a connection. I started getting really scared because I was 19 years old at the time.
No, you weren't even 19. You
I
were
was
18.
like 18, and I was at a point where I was like, okay, I really like this guy, but like where can this possibly go? I was just like, I'm still like, I'm just about to graduate school and I'm not looking to move and he's not looking to come here, and like I don't know how long you can keep up a long distance relationship until you take that next step. And I was so scared to get married and take that next step at that point. Like that was not something I was like looking to do. So I guess my like logic started to kind of like set in, and I was like, okay, like clearly as much as I like this person, I don't like to waste my time, in the sense that why would I invest myself emotionally if I already see this ending in heartbreak? Because I was always trying to avoid heartbreak. Maybe I've just seen too many movies or too many shows, but like for me, if I saw that there was no purpose in a relationship in the long run, I ended it.
Yeah.
So that came to a conversation that Eran and I had. It was a hard conversation. I pretty much told him all of my thoughts and my feelings. We had very different perspectives on it. I was like okay to end it as much as I liked him because I'm like, okay, this is not going anywhere. You had very different feelings about it.
No, it was like, again, I was very optimistic. I'm like,
you did not
listen,
expect it either.
No, I didn't, because I was like, we'll make it work. I'll come visit Canada. You'll come to Miami. Like, we'll figure it out. Like, I didn't really, that's the thing. Like, when you're so focused on in the moment and you don't really pay attention, like in the long term, I didn't really think about like, yeah, I thought maybe one day I'll get married to, but I'm like, okay, like,
you were willing to just date me long distance for a couple of years.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll just do long distance. It's okay. How hard can it get? And as time went on, like, yeah, it was very, very difficult. Like, you know, but I was like, okay, I'll make it work. Because again, I've never been in a serious relationship before.
Right.
I was like, I'll just take what I can get. Like,
we never even kissed at this point.
No, we were never physical in that point. Where It was all just talking. Like,
it was just an emotional relationship. Like,
exactly. And when you broke up, and it was leading up to it. Like, she would like kind of like be off. She's like, I'm feeling a certain way, but I don't want to tell you about it because I don't want to hurt your feelings. Like, I really care about you, all that stuff. And then when it happened, I was like kind of shocked. And because again, the only reason why we broke up was literally about distance. It had nothing to do that we weren't compatible.
Yeah.
It had nothing that we weren't attracted to each other. Like, I was just like, how could God give me the most perfect girl in my life finally,
you're so cute,
only for me to not be with her because I live here and she lives there? You know, just blew my mind. I remember I was devastated.
I remember.
I was so depressed.
So because I'm the kind of person that like needs to have some space after something like that. I think I tried not to talk to you for a bit.
Yeah.
But I will say, once we broke up, I think something that kind of really like pulled at my heartstrings was the fact that every time in the past that I was like into a guy or I was like dating a guy, let's say I told the guy, okay, this is like not working out, or like I just don't really see it going anywhere, like maybe we should just stay friends. In the past, guys always just told me, nah, it's like, it's either you're like, they would say I have enough friends. That's what they would say. They're like, I have enough friends. It's either I want like a relationship or I'm not. Eran was like the only person who ever told me, like, after we broke up, we had a few days, I think, that we took some time. And then once we started talking again, he said, I would rather have you in my life as a friend than not have you in my life at all. Yeah. And I think that's kind of like where I was like, wow, this guy is like something so special, because the fact that obviously I broke his heart at the same time as breaking mine, he's still willing to like keep me around and he still cares to have me in his life, even if it's not like in a romantic way.
My train of thought was like, I would rather have you in my life, even as a friend, than not have you at all. Because
but not everybody thinks that way. Yeah, you know,
in the back of my head, I still did see, I'm like, listen, there were for sure, like, I always knew I'm gonna end up with this girl.
So it's cute. And it's just funny because even yesterday we had to talk about this. Like, I have this problem in my personality sometimes that I try not to expect. You know, I expect disappointment.
You have low expectations.
I have low expectations so that I don't get disappointed.
Quote from Spider-Man, like that. What does she say? She's like, I have low expectations, so
I don't get disappointed. Exactly. I'm like, inside I'm Zendaya. She stole that from me. But I'm saying, like, that was kind of my train of thought. Like, I never really saw like, okay, this is the guy I'm gonna end up with, because I just saw all the obstacles and the barriers in between. And then his personality, which is what I love about him so much because we complement each other so well, is the fact that he was literally from the beginning, he's like, our journey is not over. Like, I'm gonna end up with this person.
I'm gonna fight. Fight for our love.
Exactly. So I mean, since then, it was obviously like a whirlwind of roller coasters. Sometimes I would ghost him because it was just easier. Eran's effort in order for us to like keep the friendship and whatever is that he since then planned a couple of trips to Toronto to like surprise me and Nicole. And like we had a lot of fun when we were together. And obviously, like things rekindled in that moment. And I remember that you even like wanted to kiss me in that
I was
trip.
like, I wanna, like, cause again, I never kissed a girl before,
and you wanted me to be your first.
And I always wanted, like, I was like, okay, I wanna kiss her, and because I wanted my first kiss to be with somebody that I generally have a close connection with. I don't want it to be like some like spin the bottle type of thing. And so I'm like, I want to kiss you, even though I'm gonna go back to Miami. And she was just like,
you're going back to Miami. Why would we do that to ourselves?
Yeah.
I was like, why would we like turn this like relationship into a physical one and get that physical attachment if again it's not going anywhere, you know?
And that's the thing, I wasn't thinking logically. I'm like,
he was just like, no, I
was focused on the moment. That's the thing with Haley and I bounce each other off. Haley's very logical in the sense she's like,
I think long
like
run.
she thinks long term, but I think in the moment. I'm like, let's do this.
There's
in the
up
moment.
and downs to both.
Yeah.
And we're definitely going to talk about these in like future episodes. Once,
sure.
I mean, this is really like a history episode right now.
Yeah, this is like an introductory to.
Yes. I feel like a lot of
us.
our other podcasts are probably going to be like very more straight, direct advice.
This
or
is
like,
just more for you to get to know us better
Exactly.
as a couple. So then in the future episodes, you guys can understand us. And not even just the future episodes, just.
you could
even
just
with
know
the
how we got
vlogs,
here.
You know exactly. In order to know
Exactly.
where we are now, you have to know where we came from.
Exactly.
And yeah, and so literally Haley was just like, if you kiss me now, like I might like it in the moment, but after you go back to Miami, like I'm not speaking to you again. I'm cutting ties with you because it'll be too hard to like talk to you at that point.
Damn. I was really cruel.
I know, like dang. And I remember like at that time Haley was like Haley's a very people pleaser, and so am I. But she was at a point where she would always put other people's feelings instead of hers. And this was the first time where she used my own advice I would give her. I'm like, listen, sometimes it's okay to put yourself first, you know? And she used my own advice against me. And I'm like, wow, that's how it's going to be. But now, and at that time afterwards, I had a lot of respect for her in that sense because I'm like,
It's good that we never kissed.
it's
and
good.
that
And
it didn't
I'm so
happen.
like, thank God that it never happened because it
would've made
allowed
it
us,
harder.
it would have made it much harder. And like, I'm very, very grateful. Like everything up until now, thank God, Baruch Hashem, like has happened for good.
Of course.
And, you know, we learned a lot from that first breakup. And then at that point, that's when after I went back to Miami,
we had some space.
we had some space, and it was very difficult.
And I'll say that the way that we kind of like reconnected was that Eran made an effort, like I said, to come to Canada a couple of times. With all the trips that Eran has made to Toronto, he just decided that he apparently really liked it. And I remember in our marriage, people were always like, why would
What's
you ever
wrong
move
with you?
from Miami to Toronto? So want to give people like a little bit of explanation.
I
of
think-
what was it, first of all, was it true? Did you really like Toronto, or was it for me? Because I remember when we were having all these discussions, what was the one thing I told you?
Don't move here for me.
Yes.
Just like, if
I
you're moving
told
for me,
Eran-
like, get out of here.
Yeah,
Like,
because
forget
I
about
did
it. It's not,
not
we're not
want-
going to get together. I'm telling you. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, wow.
I just remember not wanting the pressure of like, what if it doesn't work out? And now this guy's in Toronto, and like what then, you know?
Yeah.
I don't like pressure, if you guys can tell.
She doesn't. She likes to be comfortable. She doesn't like to
Exactly.
take risks. She likes to be very, very comfortable. And that's where I
Yeah,
come
that's
in and
me.
kind of push her
Rattle
to do
it.
things, you know. But again, we balance each other out. But I think at that time in my life in Miami, like, I just wasn't happy. I felt like I didn't have, after high school especially, like I didn't have the group of friends that I was looking for, and I just didn't know what I wanted within my life, which many people after high school in general, especially at that
through that.
age, they go through that phase. But the only thing in my head was like, I met this girl, and when I went to Toronto, I started making friends with people in Toronto, and I started developing close relationships with them, and ended up becoming the like majority of my friends who were in Toronto at that time. All my friends in Miami were going away. One person got married. One person was going to New York. One person was going to this university. So I was like, I'm kind of left alone here. So I'm like, why don't I just experience going to Toronto?
He literally had the balls to pick up
I'll
and
just
like
go to school
move.
there. What's the big deal? Worst case, I come back. Like,
Yeah.
you know?
I remember that when you arrived, I was like still so adamant and so stubborn and being like, okay, we're not dating, we're just friends.
Yeah.
And you were like,
But
okay
yet
with
she
it.
still kept giving me signs of like this. It was
Because I still liked you.
dating Haley was like dating like 20 different girls. Like I did not.
Life of a Gemini.
Lots of when people tell me like you only had one girlfriend all your life, I'm like, yeah, but that one girlfriend was enough. Like I dated like 20 people in that time span.
Yeah.
Because one day was, yeah, I like you. One day was, I don't like you. One day was, I want to be together. One day I don't want to be together. Like Why aren't you texting me?
Because it was a
Don't text
constant,
me.
Eran, it was a constant battle of what my heart wanted and what my head wanted. My
Yeah.
head was like telling me he doesn't know if he's going to stay. He doesn't know how long he'll be here. And plus, you never told me the move was permanent. You told me you were going to be here as a student and you're going back. So
No, I said I like Canada, which at the time
yeah,
I
but
did.
I just didn't believe that somebody would have the guts to like leave their whole family and just come to a place and like start their life, you know?
Yeah.
Because I would never do something like that.
Yeah.
And because I knew that I would never move to Florida as much as I like this guy, because just it's not even that I like Canada so much. I just couldn't imagine life not next to my family.
Yeah.
So I mean,
We're also just
Yeah.
really young. Like
Yeah.
we're like we just graduated
like
high
20 years
school.
old making these decisions.
Like we
or
didn't. I was
19.
always a guy that was like, I'm never getting married young. I'm getting married in my like mid 20s. You know, maybe late 20s.
Which some people still think that's young, but
Yeah. When you find your partner, like that'll be in its time.
100%.
But like if you get married young and
But
like
we
you know
were
it's the
just
right
in a
person-
community where a lot of people were getting married young, so
Yeah.
like we were used to seeing that.
Exactly. And so, you know, I would never thought I would get married really young. I would tell people like getting married young is like leaving a party at like 7 p.m. Like it's too early. Like you need to experience life. You need to have all this fun. And then God is like, you're saying all these things, but I have a different plan
That's
for
not
you.
the plan.
God we plan and God laughs.
Yep.
You know, so that's how it happened. And like thank God everything happened the way it did. But I generally did feel like I felt like God was pulling me towards Canada for some reason.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to explain that feeling.
You
And
just knew that you had to follow it.
I just had to follow it. And that was always something that like I try my best to get at. Is like when I have a certain feeling, maybe that's a gift that like Hashem gave me, that like I trust my gut, I trust my feelings, and I'm like, what is God trying to tell me right now? You know, and if everything's leading up to that point, then I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna take that risk because like, you know, what do I have to lose? And I remember
Exactly.
even when I went to go visit Haley that summer, my parents knew that like something was going on, but I didn't know how serious it was.
They really didn't think that you were.
No, but my mom always wanted me to be with you. From the day she met Haley, she's like, I really hope that they're gonna get married. I wanna kala, which in
I
Hebrew
love your
means like
attempt at her accent.
yeah, like kala in Hebrew means like a bride.
Yeah.
So she's like, I really want her to be a kala. I really want her family to be like our in-laws. I just want an easygoing like daughter-in-law and like, you know,
Yeah.
like father-in-law and like mother-in-law that are just very easygoing and have the same values as us. And I remember one time we were like on Skype, and on the Skype call it says like
The name.
it was like Haley Efraimov and Eran Israelov. And my mom, I'm like, oh, you want to? She's like, oh, can I say hi to your mom? I'm like, oh, say hi, mom. She's like, hi, Haley, how are you? And then me and Haley were talking, and all of a sudden, my mom looks at the screen. She's like, Haley Efraimov, Eran Israelov, Haley Israelov.
And she
I'm
did
like,
that live. I
I'm
remember.
like, mom. And then Haley started like laughing, and I'm like,
It was so
get out,
funny.
mom, get out. She's like, what did I do? And I'm like, get out. I'm like, babe, I'm so sorry. She's like, no, it's okay. Like, it's cute, whatever. But like, my parents always like, especially my mom, always wanted us to be together. And when I went that summer to go see Haley, and it didn't work out, my dad came back. He's like, so noon, like, how was the girl? Like, anything gonna happen or not? And I'm like, no, like, it's whatever's meant to be is meant to be. And then my dad's like, listen, whatever is meant to be is meant to be. Like, whatever the outcome is in God's hands. But in the end of the day, you have to do ishtadlut. You have
Which
to do
means your
effort.
efforts. You have to try.
So when he said that, I'm like, oh, dang. So my dad's like, in a way saying like, you got to go get it. So I was like, all right. So I'm going to do whatever I can to do it. So subconsciously, I was saying I'm going for school in Toronto. But in the back of my mind, without realizing,
my potential wife may be there.
my potential wife is going to be there. So I'm going to do I'm going to trust my.
And I had so
my
much
thing to do it.
admiration for him for doing that. Like, you must have a lot of guts to like literally leave your family, pick up, go to a new place, and like try it out and
was
see.
not easy.
It was
but-
not easy. You were going from home to home because like he was hosted by family, and then he moved to another house, and then he moved to my sister's. Like, it was like a whole experience. But I think what ended up happening, as stubborn as I was, what changed things around and how we kind of got back together officially is that Eran knew that when it came to my birthday, I like never really like to make a big deal of myself in general. So like I never planned myself parties or anything like that. And then he got together with a couple of my best friends, with Nicole, Jasmine, and like basically all planned a birthday for me. And I remember that day I came, I was so surprised. I was surrounded by so many people, and they all like wrote a huge card and all signed it, such beautiful things. It just made me realize like, wow, this guy, along with my friends, like was part of like making this happen.
Even though we weren't together.
Yeah, even though we weren't together, like, you know, he like put in so much effort, and I just saw it. And at that point, it was kind of like a light bulb went off in my head. I was like, Haley, he's here. Like, he's here. Why aren't you dating this guy?
Everybody was literally telling her that from the beginning. Like, listen, this guy, he moved here. Like, be with him. She's like, no, leave me alone. Like, I don't want the pressure, because again, she doesn't like pressure. She doesn't like
Yeah.
to be responsive. God forbid it doesn't work out, like it's on me. He has to move
Exactly.
back, all that stuff. And yeah,
I think after that, I don't even remember how it happened, but somehow we pretty much, I mean, I swallowed my own pride and my own ego, and I was just like, listen, I care about this guy. I want this guy in my life. Let me give him
yeah, we went on
like
a proper date.
answer, and like, let's just get back together. And I'll tell you what it is. I remember after going on that first date, even before going on that first date, I like knew that as soon as I would say yes to you being my boyfriend, that's it.
Yeah,
We weren't breaking up. Like, we were in it for the long haul. And that may be crazy to some people because obviously, like I said, my decisions are very intentional. And I don't want to say that I was going to make it work no matter what. I just knew that, like, okay, there's literally like nothing stopping us from being together at this point. If I say yes to this right now, this is the guy that I will end up marrying. And I knew that in like my deep, 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 deep core. And it's true because ever since we started dating, we never even, I don't want to say that we never fought or anything because we obviously
just didn't question our relationship.
we
knew
didn't question
that,
our relationship
like,
anymore.
the more time we spent together, the more time we got to know each other, the more, I guess, like, experience that we had with each other, the more we realized, like, we are for each other. Like, she is my zivug. In Hebrew, it means, like, she is my soulmate, in a way. And I think it took that first breakup that we had to kind of, like, mature, to kind of see where our heads are at, and to kind of, like, I guess, become 100% within ourselves, so that when we are together, we're together, like, 100% and 100%. Like, we're a whole, and then together we make an even bigger whole. I don't know, like
Impact?
a bigger piece.
Yeah, bigger piece. Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
so because the thing is, when we were dating in the beginning, we're out of high school. All you care about, like, in my head, I was like, I have a girlfriend now, and Valentine's Day, and movie dates, and all that stuff. But I wasn't really thinking about the long term and what I was going. So when we broke up that first time, as difficult as it was and depressed as I was,
It needed to happen.
it needed to happen because it allowed me to grow from it and, like, really, like, dissect, like, what is, I remember the first video I looked up on YouTube, I was just like, how to deal with a breakup.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know who to ask. I didn't want to seem pathetic because people would say, listen, what's the big deal?
You're a guy, get over it.
Get over it.
Find
It's
another
long
girl.
distance. You never even kissed her. What's the big deal? Da, da, da.
Yeah.
But I'm like, listen, I was very, very invested. Like, it hurt. And I remember I look it up, and I remember, like, the first video that I watched recommended, like, this, like, self-help book. And I read that book, and it was just talking about how your job in a relationship is to bring out the best versions of each other. When you in a friendship, well, mostly in a relationship, but in general, like, to
It shouldn't
bring
be
out,
just selfish.
yeah, it's like her job for me is to bring out the best version of me, and my job first is to bring out the best version of her. That is our main priority, and that's what, like, I guess what love should be about in general. So if one of the sides is not doing that, then it's not a relationship. That was my main thing. So when I started to think about that, I'm like, okay, my main purpose in a relationship is to bring out the best version of her. Not for my own selfish reasons. Like, yes, she makes me happy and everything, but if I'm with her, I need to make her a better person. I need to make her happy. And when you have that I guess, philosophy or that idea, it allows you to be more selfless.
The dynamic of your relationship also would change because at that point you're like, I'm not in this relationship just for myself, but I'm in it for the other person. And I definitely feel like, especially with that first breakup, I especially feel like with that first breakup, it needed to happen because we were just so, like, in lust and, like, obsessed with the idea of the relationship and obsessed with the idea of dating and whatever. But we weren't really, like, contributing to each other's growth.
Yeah, and
even
that's
emotionally.
And that's one of the advices that we can give off is, like, when you're in a relationship
or when
like,
you're even dating. Like,
yeah, like you obviously in the beginning it's exciting. You're dating. You're going here, going there. It's like lust. You know, it's like like the honeymoon stage or whatever. But at some point, you have to always remember, like,
be very intentional.
Like, okay, where's this going? Like, why am I in this relationship? Is she just because I feel lonely? Is it because I enjoy, like, having, like, a partner to go out with and all that stuff? Like,
am I bored? Like,
am I bored? Like, I just don't want to, like, I want to have someone to go to dinner with. Like, you have to know what your intentions in the relationship, and you have to make sure that, like, you guys are making each other better.
Exactly.
You know, and I feel like that's what we had to go through that first breakup to, like, gather within our thoughts and gather within ourselves, become better versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
And then
you know
work together
what? To go off of that, there's something that, like, I also wanted to mention it's just the fact that when most people start off their relationships, they're constantly thinking,
She's still thinking.
hold on. Oh my gosh, it just escaped my mind. This is too long of a pause. I literally don't remember what I was going to say.
Babe, are you serious? You forgot?
Okay, I remember now what it is that I wanted to talk about.
It's about time.
I think the way that I kind of wanted to close out this podcast is talk about how do you know if a person is right for you?
Yes.
Okay? How would you know? Let me ask you first.
I don't know. It was actually like a common question. I remember like when Haley and I were dating, I always knew I was going to marry her. But then I would ask people like, how do you know like
This is the person for you.
this is a person for you? Like, is it going to be written on their forehead? Like, how do you know do you love them? Like all these things. And obviously like when it comes to like love and stuff like that, you love that person, but the love grows each and every year that you're together, especially after marriage. Like the love that we have for each other now is much stronger than the love that we had each other when we just got married or when we just started dating.
What I would personally say is that I feel like when a lot of people are trying to like date someone or they like somebody, they always say, I want a person who's like this. I want a guy who has these values. I want a guy, for example, like take a girl, for example, that wants to start dating somebody. And she's just like, I really want a good boy. I really want a boy who's like very serious about life, who like is not going from girl to girl, is not playing around, is like
Has
whatever.
like his stuff together, like
Has his stuff together. But then I always go and I ask that person, okay, imagine you built up this person in your head and you have him standing right in front of you. Would this person choose you? Would he choose you as somebody he wants to date? And I think that the initial advice that I would give anybody who is just starting to date or trying to figure themselves out, you can have all these expectations for the kind of person that you want to be with and the kind of person that you want to date, but you have to make sure that you're proud of who you are, that you're also confident that the person that you have in your head would also choose you. That's all I'm saying. So it's like, if you want somebody who is good and honest and faithful, you need to be good and honest and faithful. Yeah. Actually, I think this sometimes applies more to the guy. I'm sorry to say that, but I genuinely feel like sometimes guys want a good girl, or guys want a girl who is like a virgin or is clean, as they would say. I don't like saying that, not saying God forbid that anybody who isn't is considered dirty, but like the amount of times that I've heard it, because I have so many guy friends, you know, but they themselves are okay like sleeping with another girl every weekend. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It's like, if you're saying that you want to have a good girl, you got to make sure that you yourself are the kind of guy that that girl would want to be with.
Yeah, if you want to be like, you know, when you get married, you're like a king and queen. Like, you know, in Torah, when you get married, the first year of marriage, like the husband is a king and then the wife is a queen. If you want to marry a queen, you gotta be a king. The king is not gonna be doing all these other things, whatever. Like, okay, probably, and vice versa. Like, if you want to marry a king, you gotta be a queen yourself. Yeah. Like, you know, you have to be probably have to have these certain values.
If you want a girl who is driven and a girl who is motivated and somebody who's like, you know, just taking life seriously, then you need to be doing that yourself as well. There's like so many guys that were in relationships that like it never ended up going somewhere because they had a wifey, as they would say, but then the girl wasn't feeling like she was getting that kind of like reciprocation a word? Wasn't getting that reciprocated back, you know? So I think all I'm just trying to say is that, like you said, you preach what you teach. If you want to be in a good, stable relationship with somebody, then you got to make sure that when you look in the mirror, you're looking at somebody that you're proud of to have that person dating. Yeah. Because when me and Eran first got together and we first started dating, I think the reason, I don't want to say the reason I liked you so much is because I saw so much of myself in you, but the qualities that like I see as things that I like value in my life, I saw them in you.
Yeah, and vice versa.
So I think that's kind of why our relationship just kind of worked out so well.
And not even that, like I remember when we broke up the first time, like usually it happens mostly with like, I don't know if it happens mostly with guys or girls or not, but I remember I was in a phase when I'm like, you know, some of my friends were like, yo, forget this girl, like have fun, do these things, like you can
trying to pressure you to like
do whatever. Yeah. And then I remember I was like, you know what, screw it, like I'm gonna maybe like talk to other girls. And I remember when I was talking to Haley's sister at the time, I'm like, listen, it's just so hard because like the only thing that kept us apart was long distance and all this stuff. Like I don't know what to do. And she's like, listen, one advice I can give you is that, do you still see a future with her one day, or a girl like her one day? I'm like, yeah. So she's like, so then continue to be the person that she fell for. Like,
Yeah.
don't change, because then if you do change and you do go on a rampage or something like that, you end up proving her point that you're just like every other person.
Mm-hmm.
So when she said that, it really like, stuck to me. I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna just stay
And I'll
true to
affirm
myself.
that if you started like changing your personality and you started like doing these things that you knew I wouldn't like, I don't know if like
And just
that
blame it on her, like,
relationship-
oh, you broke my heart. That's why I did it. It's your fault.
Yeah.
Like, nah, she'll be like, okay, I'm sorry that I did it to you, but it didn't make
I
it
don't
any
see a
better.
future with you.
I don't see a
Yeah.
future. You just proved my point. Like,
Exactly.
you guys all this, and then that's it. So, like, long story short, when you're in a relationship and God forbid you break up or something happens, continue to be that person that the person you're with at that moment liked you for. You know, if that's truly your nature. Like, don't go out in this. Like, if you're dealing with a heartbreak, like, take upon certain hobbies, be more with your friends, like, work on yourself. I feel like that's in
Better
general.
yourself.
Better yourself in general. Like, do a certain hobby, like read books, like become a better version of yourself, so the next time that God provides another person in your life, you're ready for that person. Because sometimes you might have to date a few times. Like, we were blessed that, thank God, we dated each other seriously for the first time when we knew we're the right person. But
Even
for
though
other
we got
people,
advice that you got to get through heartbreak
Yeah.
in order to have a successful relationship, it's not true. But that being said, if I talk to somebody like my older sister, for example, she's had many relationships, and she said that every single relationship brought her one step closer to her husband. She said she would not have married her husband if she didn't go through all those past relationships, because each one showed her a quality that she did want or a quality that she didn't want, and it gave her more clarity. So every relationship that you're going to encounter is only going to benefit you, as long as while you're in the relationship, you're always constantly making good decisions on like, is this something that will better my future with this person? It will not. Is this something that will better me as a person? Will it not?
Yeah, and again, because we dated, especially the second time, with the intention to get married, to have a future together, we discussed and we thought about all these things in that moment, so it kind of made the process a bit faster.
Exactly.
And we knew, and there on top of there are certain points within a relationship that you know that like this is a person for you. And I feel like one of the moments was when Haley and I got engaged. We really didn't have any money. Like, I had like less than $1,000 in my account. And when we got married, it was the same situation.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time, I think a month before our wedding, rest in peace, like, your grandfather passed away.
Yeah.
Right before, a month before, and it was very, very devastating for the family, especially like we wanted him, to be there, but he was there,
it was
and
really hard.
from heaven watching over it. And at that time, what you usually do is like you have like a shiva, like you say, like in Hebrew, or is it like kind of like a funeral?
Shiva it's kind of like you just sit for 7 days and like you mourn the person's passing.
the person's passing. Like, and then on the 30-day mark, you kind of like have like a reunion about that of that person. You just talk good words about that person, memories. Like, everybody gathers together as a community. And
I'm really curious to know where you're going with this.
And so what happened was, in our community, in our culture, Bukharians and stuff like that, like, you cover your seat in a way. So in this event, in weddings, bar mitzvahs, and in these things, you cover your seats. Haley's aunt took it. Her name is Tanya. We love you, Tanya. And she took the envelope and she's like, here, Haley, like, this is for your wedding. And Haley's like, no, like, I'm not accepting it. Like, we don't need it. And then she's like, listen, take it as like a money for the wedding. And Haley's like, you're already giving money for the wedding. This is like extra stuff. We don't need it. And then Tanya's like, if it's not from, if you're not accepting it from me, then at least accept from your Saba, from your grandfather. Like, this is from him. I might get a little emotional. And so Haley got the money, and then right away she looked at me and she's like, here, take half. And then I'm like, babe, I don't know. It's not for me. Like, your aunt gave it to you. Like, use it to buy stuff for your wedding dress or your clothes, whatever. And she's like, Eran, we're getting married in a month. There is no mine or yours. This is our money. So I'm giving you this money.
Are you getting emotional, babe?
And I'm going to give you this money.
Emotional. What the heck?
And I'm giving you this money, and you get yourself whatever you need to get. Because I know, like, in general, like, as much as I didn't tell her, I'm like, she's like, I know you need money, like, to buy certain, so buy yourself, like, shoes for the wedding and all that stuff. And then, like, I remember in that moment that, like, I was still, like, touched, and I already knew I was going to marry her. I knew she was a person for me, but it was, like, a reassurance that I'm like, wow, like, this girl's so selfish, and this is why I'm with her, that, like, it was right away, like, this is no mine or yours, this is ours, so take this half, because we're gonna be
Like,
husband
we weren't
and wife.
even married yet, but I already knew.
Yeah, and I remember when that happened, I was just so touched. I was like, one of the moments that like I really realized that like
That's cute.
she was the one for me. And obviously, with many people, they're going to have many of these moments.
Yeah.
That's one of the ways you can realize that this is a person for you. Like God will give you certain
With every
moments like
decision,
that.
just like make the decision with your partner in mind, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, it's
So,
just
yeah, it was
I
a
didn't even
really-
really remember that, the fact that that was so significant
So
for you.
me, it's very
You
because
know.
at that time, like I didn't have that much money going on, and like I was just trying my best to like prove to you and your family like I can take care of this girl. I was taking on every job because listen, it's very difficult. Like I moved from Miami where I have my family, I have my support, they're paying for my bills, my food, my car, and then I moved to a completely different country, and I didn't want to ask my parents for any money. I didn't want to ask them for any help, and at the same time I want to get married, but I don't want to tell my in-laws like I don't have any money to support. So
Yeah.
I just took on every job I could just to show like
Sweet.
I can be with her, like I'll take care of her with God's help, of course. And so that moment just really showed that she's like, we're in this together. Like you provide for me, yeah, but we'll provide for each other. God will be together. And the first step is, for us to be one partner, to be one neshama, one soul together. So that was one of the moments.
That's very
really,
sweet.
yeah.
That's a really cute way to close this out, actually.
Yeah, very, very good. It's a thing I didn't cry, bro.
Oh, yo, your voice was breaking.
I know, because it's I don't tell many people that, but it's a moment for me. It was like one of like
I didn't even know that was so significant for you, because
milestone
in
for
my
me.
head it was like, duh, like you're my husband already.
No,
you
for
know?
sure. But for me, listen, for me it was different. It was surely because you could have been listening, this is my money, like okay, and I would have accepted, but because you right away your first instinct was, here, take half.
Yeah.
It's like it's not my money, it's our money.
Yeah.
Go take care of it. So for me, that was really, really
Yet,
touching.
as cute as that is, when it comes to food, Eran doesn't give me half.
No, if anything, I give you your own portion. I like, all right, this is my burger, it's your burger.
Exactly.
But if you want, I give you some.
I love you, babe.
I love to be.
This was definitely like an introductory episode, just in the sense of like it was really a free-flowing conversation, just to kind of give a little bit about our history. I would really love to know like your guys' thoughts. Let us know down below. Leave us some comments, because when you guys engage with us, not only is it good for the algorithm, which we need some help, because I don't even think this podcast is showing up when you search it up right now.
So like, guys,
Share
share this podcast
with people you feel like would find value in it, because I
Exactly.
always say that I never give shout outs and share things, because I feel like content is made to resonate with people. If you feel like this resonated with you in any way, or you think it was just like a cool story to listen to, because sometimes I always think like we can literally write a book with all of our history.
For sure. And we
So-
definitely want to take this to like different levels of like talking about certain topics.
Yeah.
Even sometimes maybe having like towards the end of the podcast, we'll kind of like maybe go on like on a live Instagram chat where we just answer your questions
Like
live
live.
to you
I love
guys.
that,
Maybe we'll add that
aspect
segment.
too.
So let us know if you guys want that involved. And maybe in the future we can also have like some certain guests that we can have them here, of people that within our circle that's been on our channel before, or even new people that's never been on the channel before.
Yep, definitely.
We definitely have some plans for this, but we love if you can subscribe,
Yeah.
like, share.
And honestly, be patient with us. This is
Yeah.
only our first episode. We for sure
Yes.
messed up a lot. We for sure cut each other off. I feel like I had pregnancy brain a couple times. You also probably mumbled a couple of times.
sure.
But we are going to be getting better at this. And honestly, your navigation is going to be the best way to kind of like get this podcast on track of where it needs to be. So let us know what you want us to talk about next. And like we said, in the future, I think we're just going to delve a lot more on like specific topics rather than like huge overarching subjects. So if you guys are watching up to this point, I think with every podcast, we're going to get you to comment something. And I think something cool to comment would be just the beginning. Like, it's just the beginning.
It's just the beginning, or just the beginning. I think
Just the
that's good.
beginning, So if you guys are watching up to this point, you're the real MVPs, you're our favorite kind of people, comment down below, it's just the beginning, or just the beginning, because this is just the beginning of this podcast. And hopefully with these conversations, it's like just the beginning of our little group chat friendship. Sometimes I feel like there's going to be so much like advice that I can ask Eran to give like his guy opinion on, which is awesome.
And sometimes Haley might even have these episodes by herself, just her, like
Definitely.
just girl to girl, so
For
you guys
sure,
don't
where
feel
where
like,
I answer some more like personal things, maybe like more pregnancy related things. Like, there's so many different ways that we can take these podcasts, but we'd really love your feedback. So comment down below, let us know if you enjoyed it, what parts of the podcast you enjoyed, and any criticism. We're here to hear it, and we're here to talk as well. We love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And from Eran and Haley, we're out.
we're out.
Love
Hey
you guys.
Babes podcast. Love y'all.